Okay. Okay. All right, I believe we are live. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Eileen. How are you?
I'm good. Well, a very good afternoon to everyone, to our audience who's joined us. We did a little teaser this morning, so I hope you managed to squeeze out some time. I know a couple of you actually DM me as well. You could be on the move, but nonetheless, as long as you're watching this, today's your chance to win a book right here, right now.
All right.
Yes, and just want to welcome Daniel. I did a little introduction to Daniel this morning, but nonetheless, let me just do a proper introduction. Just bear with me as the screen goes a little wonky, but you should be able to see everything nice and good right now. Okay, so I thought I'll just introduce myself for those of you who are watching this for the first time. I'm Eileen. I'm a organizational psychologist. I'm an HR consultant. I'm an executive coach and also the founder of the Art of Career. And Art of Career has turned five. No, not has turned five. Is turning five in at the end of Q3 this year. And with that, we are doing a lot of free events for our job seekers and also our professionals in Singapore. And we welcome listeners from all other countries as well because this topic on career success, career transition is something that hits all of us, no matter which stage of your career journey you're at. And I thought I would just like to also mention since we are live here in YouTube, for those of us who like to listen to podcasts, we are busy multitasking. I think Daniel, a lot of professionals are multitasking these days
Yep.
with technology and all that. So do catch our podcast on listen.artofcareer.com. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Daniel, who's the author of First Time Leadership. And he's here with us because he is a first time author. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes. I found it so apt because when I was reading the book, I was thinking, hey, Daniel is also a first time author. So maybe he should write a book about being a first time author. I think we're all a lot of book titles, right?
One book at a time.
One book at a time, yes. So Daniel is a aspiring leader. I'll leave him to talk about his story, but what when I met Daniel, he's actually carrying a very big, L&D training budget with a global bank, and that's where I met him. And he's been faced with this very issue that he has authored his book on. But Daniel has a double master's degree in HR and industrial relations from Monash University in Melbourne. And he's married and has a young family. And guess what? He's also a former police officer who kept the streets safe for us. I think is it safer or equally safe
Equally
without you
safe.
in it? Okay, so he's here today to talk to us about his book and his journey. But if you want to hear more about his career transition journey itself, do search for his video right in this YouTube channel. And then we are also running a little contest where viewers like yourself can walk away with books, written by Daniel. And I'm giving away 4 books. So with one book to one lucky winner today, live on YouTube. Let's see who's quick enough to answer simple question that Daniel and I will be talking about, in our conversation. And the rest, do not fret because you have an opportunity to also win a book. And all you need to do is to watch the videos, leave your comment. Daniel will be the ultimate judge to see which of the 3 meaningful comments will win the other 3 books. So let's see.
And I've just left the first comment on the chat. Hello, everyone.
Oh, nice, nice, wonderful. Okay, so I'm just gonna stop share here. I've actually given Daniel a few questions. So I'm
Hmm.
just showing you a sneak peek of the questions here. Sneak peek, so sneak, right? Yeah. But for those of us who are interested to get his book, whether you are a first-time leader, whether you're a middle manager, you want to get a book for your colleagues, you can use the coupon code AOC to have a special discount. All discounts go to you. We do not, have any of the proceeds at all. It's really all intended for you. And I want to thank Daniel for making that special arrangement for our audience. Thank you so much. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, so Eileen, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to those who have taken the time to watch us live on YouTube. So, I want to get right down to what Eileen was saying earlier. Why did I write the book? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to work in learning and development for a very large bank. And one day my manager came to me and he said, Daniel, I want you to show more leadership. Now you can imagine the scenario here. I was responsible for my job. I delivered results and I got no complaints, right? So that's what you want for as an employee, right? To get the job done. But those very things don't tell you if this person is a leader or not. And that was the problem that my manager had.
Right. Very,
And so I was left with this question, wait, what is leadership? I would go on to read over 30 leadership books, but I couldn't quite understand what leadership is. And the problem was this, a lot of these books, they look at leadership from one point of view. So if you imagine that, let me just use something, I don't know. If you imagine like a ball, and I'm just using my fist. You can imagine a ball, and everyone is just looking at leadership from different angles. Some people are saying, oh, leadership is resilience, leadership is contribution, leadership is about influence, and they're all correct. But they're looking at leadership just from that particular angle. And I realized, wait, I want to know all the leadership traits to be a successful leader. But every book that I read was just looking at it from one point of view. So I decided, okay, you know what? Maybe I should write a book about it. Of course, I didn't start out to write a book. I just wanted to know, for my own selfish reasons, what is leadership? And eventually I found my answer. And then I began to understand why people were saying that leadership is about influence, contribution, and whatnot. So what makes my book so different is that I take a holistic view on leadership. So I take this craziness that's leadership, and I boil it down. I break it all down into its individual parts, so that then, there are 30 chapters. There are 30 leadership traits, and it tells you every single chapter talks about one trait, and why this trait is necessary, essential to be a successful leader.
Right. And
Yes.
and 30 chapters, so 30 traits. Very interesting.
Yes. The biggest takeaway is this. It's not me telling you these are the traits.
Right.
You got to remember that I didn't understand. I didn't know anything about leadership. So I did the next best thing. I asked those who did.
Right.
And that process, it was a 20 months journey where I interviewed 220 leaders from all over the world. Now, we didn't know every single leader. We started out with our friends and families, and then they referred us to other people who then referred us to other people. And eventually some people caught on and they approached us and say, hey, look, I want to be part of this journey. And that's how we eventually hit 220 leaders from 37 countries in all 6 continents. Except for Antarctica, I'm still looking for someone who actually works there.
All right, you're still looking. So that means we're going to have a second book coming up. Or maybe a
There
sequel?
is, well, we'll talk more about the second book later. Let's just do the first book first.
Yes, yes. So you spoke about 220 leaders.
Yes.
And I know that I am one of the leader that you interview.
Yep.
So I'm curious to know because 220. So where do I rank? You know, as you go about collecting all the interview.
Yes.
Yep.
So just for everyone's disclosure, Eileen was the first
Woohoo!
interviewee that I had reached out to. Right? You got to give you more context. I had absolutely no idea how to interview people. Now, when I mean interview people, I'm not talking about just having some casual conversation. You got to have a casual conversation and at the same time put
Right.
the other person at ease as you are drawing out all of the nuggets and insights from them. You can imagine that these leaders could be your frontline leaders, could be your middle managers, your senior managers, CEOs, board members, retired chairpersons of public listed companies. They have accumulated years and maybe even decades of knowledge and insights about leading people, and they don't need to share it with others. And so
Right.
when I'm there meeting with them, I have to sit down, have my cup of tea with them and start having a conversation. And you have to remember as well, I have my trusty mobile phone here, which I've used for the last 3 years. It's sitting there right in the middle of the table,
Yeah.
recording away. So I need to immediately and very quickly put the other person at ease and then draw out all the insights and make it seem like as if we're having a very insightful conversation because I'm going through a whole list of questions in my head in order to get the essence of what made this person a successful leader. And the vast majority of the leaders that I had spoken with, they're successful in their own ways, whether it's at a very small level, whether it's a family-run business and an SME, or to the largest of global organizations. They were all successful leaders in their own ways.
I remembered, yeah, the first interview you had in my office. Uh,
I made all the mistakes there.
really, really? What did you change though? I'm just curious. What did you change,
One of the things that you told me was, as it was my first interview, I needed to be more natural with
yeah.
how I converse with people because I was very self-conscious that the phone was recording. And then I was trying to run through this whole list of questions in my head, like, oh, I need to ask Eileen this, I need to ask Eileen that. And eventually I got better.
Mm.
Eventually, after a couple of interviews, people were saying to me, oh, it's over? You actually asked all the questions that you wanted? And I would say, yes, I did. Oh, really? Okay.
It sounded like a conversation, much like now, I think.
Yes, yes, yeah. So
Mm.
it's it's a journey, and over time I was able to identify, hey, there are all these
Right,
trends that
right.
people are saying, these certain keywords that were popping up, and it wasn't just by people of certain ethnic race or certain part of the world, certain education level, whatnot, or gender even. We realized that when we cut across all these things, the race, your ethnicity, your education level, your gender, even your years of experience,
Mm.
we realized that there were certain similarities. And eventually, we boiled it all down to these 30 similarities. So these 30 traits, when people understand it, will allow them to be successful anywhere in the world. The only difference is how are they applying it depending on the society that they're in, the environment that they are in, or the people that they're involved with. So the application is different, but the concept is the same anywhere in the world.
This is
Yes,
interesting. Now, this book makes it really interesting. The reason why I say that is your approach. Because
yes,
you didn't write the book with an intention to teach people, sort of like, here's what you should do. Instead, the approach you took was, here's what I discovered.
yes,
Here are 10, in fact, 30 areas or 30 traits which I believe are important. And and I think the question here is, you wrote 30 chapters, So, which is your most enjoyable or favorite chapter? Your favorite chapter?
My most favorite chapter,
Yeah.
I would say it is. Now I'm just getting my. I have a spare copy. This is what I call the proof copy,
Oh,
right?
the proof.
Yeah. So before we went to print, the printer will send me a proof copy, so it looks really terrible. You know, see some like some. I'm just showing it. There's some like black marks here. This is
Yeah.
it's just a proof of concept, right? Now, I would say that the most enjoyable chapter, the most or the favorite chapter that I had was, and probably the one that I enjoyed interviewing a lot,
Right.
was chapter 30. Right,
Right.
the chapter is titled "If Not Me, Then Who." It's it was by the contributor. Her name is Christine. Right, she works here in Singapore, and she shared with me the story about how in every pivotal point in her
Mm.
career, she had to ask herself, was she going to step up and lead? Now, there's a big difference between being a leader and being a manager, right?
Right.
It wasn't like they were offering her the position and whatnot, but there were pivotal points in her career where if no one else was going to step up, that's it, game over. And so people looked at her and she said, "All right, I'm going to step up." It wasn't like she was stepping up into a higher position or anything like that. But people were looking at her and she said, "Okay, I'm gonna lead." And
Right.
she led people out of those pivotal times.
Mhm.
And when you meet some of these interviews, not just Christine, but with many of the other interviewees, we tend to think that, hey, when we think of leaders, we're thinking Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, people like who are out there,
Celebrities,
celebrity,
well-known
yeah, very well
personality.
known.
Mm.
But leaders are everywhere, and they're at every single level. And a lot of them are just doing their jobs, doing what they need to do, and they just go. They don't make a fanfare about it. And Christine was one person who didn't make a fanfare about it, but the impact that she had on the people around, whenever she asked herself
Mm.
whether she was going to step up, that made it a very interesting story. And I actually debated back and forth. I was actually toying in my head, do I put her at an earlier chapter or put her at the end? And when I boiled down to it, I realized her story gave a very good conclusion to the whole
Ah.
book. At the end of it, when you read everything,
Mm.
you're left with the one question. You can gain all the knowledge that you want about leadership. But the one question they need to ask themselves is, are you going to step forward and lead? Because that's one thing that separates leaders from managers. The leader is going to step forward. Now, the leader may not be holding a title, but everyone's going to look to him or her and say, yeah, this person steps forward, I'm following.
I love that. You mentioned leaders may not be holding a title.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're not given an authority, but you can always lead. And you
Yes.
don't have what they call the budgeted head count in your care, but you can
Yeah.
still lead, right? As an individual contributor, you can lead other individual contributor. That makes you a leader. That's the special thing about being a leader, right? Compared
Yes.
to a manager.
Yeah. And I have to admit to everyone that when I was in the corporate world before I started this journey,
Mm.
I couldn't separate I couldn't separate, you know, um, I couldn't separate leader, right? Yeah. Sorry, like this leader, this pink. Okay, this is actually a pretty good metaphor. Pink versus this manager. Okay,
Mm.
the manager is the one who is trying to control, right? They have resources that they need to control in order to achieve results.
Yeah, manage.
Okay, right, managed. That's why when a lot of people, they want to get their promotion, really they want to be a people manager, right? Because the promotion, when you become a supervisor or something like that, you have people that you can manage. It feels good. You feel like, oh yeah, I got the power to control these
Power.
people, control resources. Ever wonder why companies call it human resource department? Because when people are called a resource, it makes it sound easier to control them, right?
Yeah.
You are a resource. I'm going to control you. But when
Right.
people are acknowledged as people, do you
Mm,
think it's easy to control people? No. But you can influence them, right?
exactly.
That's where the pink pencil comes in. So what I realized was this. As much as I wanted to get that promotion so that I could be a people manager, but if people don't want to be controlled, they need to be influenced. Then how do I influence people so that I can be a leader in their eyes? And that became a very difficult question. And it was only going through the process of researching the book and understanding leadership was I then able to realize, oh, this is what it takes to be a leader. And to be a leader, there are all these different traits. And so the book tells you what those traits are.
Very interesting. There could be more than 30,
That
but
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right?
there
But
could be more
it's
than 30. There could be less than 30. It just happened that for what we did, we came down to 30.
you came down to 30. I'm
Yes.
curious to know. So, chapter 30 was your most enjoyable chapter
Yes.
in writing it, and was Christine, whom you interviewed, the 220th interviewee?
No, Christine was
No?
actually very early on in the interview process.
Ah,
I think she was in the 20s. So what I do is that I listen to people's experiences.
mm,
So all the stories that you read in the book, it's based on real life. I've just
okay.
taken creative license to change the character names so that people are not readily identified,
Right.
and also to change some of the organizations. But these people shared what actually happened, and when I asked them what was the one thing that got you out of it,
Mm,
they pointed to it. So I already have interviews telling me, yeah, this is what I did. This one thing made a big difference. And so that made it easier for me to then be able to slot in the stories. Christine, in her particular case, I was thinking of putting her somewhere else. But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized her story was about an individual deciding whether they were going to step forward to lead. And
mm.
so in the end, it fitted the final chapter.
So nice. We've got comments from our viewers. Winkit was sharing that managers control, but leaders walk the talk. How true.
Yes, yeah, and Winkit and Yan Ling, yeah,
Yeah. Yes.
ask yourself this: would you rather be controlled or influenced? The reason why leadership is such a big topic now
Mm,
is that people no longer want to be controlled, right? We want to have the option to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this, and we want to get the information and whatnot. So this whole process, right, we are being influenced, and that's why leaders still need to be managers because you still got to deliver results. But how you deliver results, you have to work with people. You work with resources, but people are a form of resource, but people are living things and people want to be influenced towards
and
achieving
they have a brain.
results. And they have a brain, they can think for themselves. Yes,
Yeah.
that's why
It's very
managerial skills are important, leadership skills even more so. And so in many organizations nowadays, they struggle. They struggle to develop leaders because people can't. They don't understand. They don't really understand what leadership is, and then B, they can't even make. When you don't understand leadership is, you can't separate between being a manager and being a leader. The pink pencil or the blue pen. they can't make out the difference. And that's why many organizations nowadays, there's such a desire for leaders, but there's such a big struggle to develop them.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think you have pointed something very, very true. Before I continue, just want to acknowledge that CP, I don't know if that's your initials for your name, but he called himself or herself Cool. So
Cool.
CP Cool says, yeah, people hate being controlled. That's really absolutely true.
Yep.
You know, of late, I just want to also say that last week's seminar, we've got majority mid-career professionals. And of course, it's pretty natural that as we get into the mid-career phase and
Mm.
then preparing, maybe some of us even nearing the late mid, and then going into the early late phase. So our direct supervisors, are of a younger crowd.
Yes.
And of course, being from a younger crowd, sometimes based on business exigencies, the company do not have time to groom their individual contributors to be, good managers to begin with, let alone leaders,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think your book will be really good because what it's trying to say also, and I think I am treading on thin ice here. So what your book could actually eventually point out to is that, look, your managers or direct supervisors may be young, or maybe not young but just have a certain style of management that you don't quite agree with. But from this book, you know what? You can lead. In fact, you can lead your manager to be a better manager, and then hopefully one day your manager can be a leader. Oops. I think all the managers out there will hate me. It's powerful. I think this book is powerful.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with another leadership consultant. This guy is based in the US. He we were just having this short chat, and I was sharing with him that the challenges with writing a book is that the leadership is a very dynamic topic, right? So it's not like it's not like I tell you these are the traits and you
Right.
learn it and then immediately you can be a leader. It just doesn't work that way. Every situation that you get involved in is dynamic, and how you resolve it is going to be different.
Mm,
the,
wonderful.
the book doesn't cater for that dynamic nature of leadership. So I can't tell you, oh, in this situation do this, in this situation do that. I needed to be able to say, all right, first just explain to people what are all the traits,
Right.
and
And you have
then
a diagram. You have a diagram on let's see, which page is it? You know,
yes,
in your book, you gave everyone a pictorial to help them remember the chapters a lot better in the
yeah,
book. I think
it's
it's
on
on
page
Roman Roman
8.
numeral
Yeah,
13,
I
is
mean
it?
my face is being covered a bit, but you can sort of see this diagram here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So the whole idea of the diagram was to be able to put our concepts
Mm,
together, yeah, in a way that made sense. We don't necessarily there's no there's no fixed model
mm,
to being a leader. Every single situation that you face, because it's different, you're pulling out you're exercising different traits in order to successfully resolve that situation. And so what makes sense is to know what those traits are.
right.
Yeah, so that
And
then you can apply it when needed.
so I think for those who, or at least the four lucky winners who are getting this book, or for those who get this book, you will see this diagram itself. And I like this diagram because it shows you the 7 parts where each of the 30 chapters fall under. All right. So
Mm,
not so if I can say, on for example, part one is all about self-awareness. And under part one, you've got 4 individual chapters that talks about, self-awareness, and in each chapter there's a story as well. Yeah. But on the point, since I asked you about your favorite chapter, can you guess my favorite chapter?
The one
What's my
that
favorite chapter?
the chapter that has featured you.
Yes. And which chapter is that?
That's chapter 12.
Woohoo! Okay, so maybe
Yeah.
can you explain to the audience here?
Mm.
So remember my favorite chapter is chapter 12 because he interviewed me and then he mentioned me
Yes.
on page 163. Okay, so when you get your book, remember page 163.
So chapter 12 was about is titled Why Should Others Follow You? And it turned out
Ah,
to be a very good question because when many of us want that people manager position, when we want to be seen as a leader, we tend to just think about ourselves like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a leader.
mm,
But we never think about why should others follow us? Why should others follow me?
way to
Right?
go.
What's so special about you that makes it worthwhile for other people to follow you? Now, there's a
You
big
have the
difference.
quote, right? You
Yeah,
still have the quote.
there's a, you know, there's this quote that Eileen once shared with me, and I sort of incorporated the essence of that quote into the chapter. The quote that she had, which I picked out during the interview, was this: you make whatever you do fun and meaningful so that others are drawn towards you and want to join the party.
Yeah.
So I'll say it again: make whatever you do fun and meaningful so that others are drawn towards you and want to join your party. I remember speaking with the person who contributed to that chapter. His name is Fabian. And actually, if anyone is interested, you can always find out who Fabian is. But in any case, I was very puzzled with this one question. Has a leader ever attempted to answer the question of why should others follow them? And when I interviewed Fabian, I decided, hey, I'm going to ask you, Fabian, have you ever asked yourself why should others follow you? What made them to decide that you are the one worth following? And he paused for a while and he said, yes, I actually thought about that question, and here's my answer. And immediately I knew that Fabian was going to be the one that I was going to put into that chapter because he
Wow.
had the answer.
He had the answer.
He had
That's so good.
thought through and understood why people followed him. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I love it. I love it. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just gonna stop share there. Okay, so since I asked you about your favorite chapter as most enjoyable one, there's actually a burning question that's in my mind. You interviewed 220 people.
Yes.
So who's your last interviewee? And also what made you decide to stop?
One of the things that we wanted to do was to achieve 50-50 parity in terms of males and females.
Oh, gender balance.
Gender balance. Yeah.
Right.
I had a lot of males step up. The females had to be referred to by other females. So I reached 220 because I think the last 50 or 60 were mostly females. I was just interviewing one female leader after another at different levels, from frontline all the way to retired chairpersons of public sector companies, just going up, just trying to get that. And quite interestingly, the females bring a different perspective. They bring a different application on how a particular leadership trait is applied. And it made me realize that there really isn't such a thing as a good or bad leader.
Lovely.
It's more about what's appropriate. For example, someone who's in the military, they may have developed a certain style of leadership. But when you take them out of that military context, that style isn't going to be that applicable, and they need to change, they need to adjust. Same same thing. Some people are very good in a crisis, and then but these crisis managers don't do well, and we sometimes see it. These crisis managers don't do well when things are very peaceful. Sorry, these crisis leaders, and then we have leaders who are very good at keeping the status quo, but they need to step away when there's a crisis because they don't have the kind of temperament, the kind of skill set, the kind of mindset in order to handle a crisis situation. So it's
Yeah,
more about,
even the personality, isn't it? In times of
yes,
crisis, you need people in terms of the big five personality type, neuroticism. You need someone who scores very low so that they are not easily perturbed, not easily
yep,
excitable, and then they are very calm. They can actually sense the situation, and then rely a lot of their thinking power rather than responding from the heart itself, right?
yeah. I talk about that on chapter 3, where I talk about values and strengths and personality. And it made me realize that, when you have a chance to speak with so many leaders from different areas, different parts of the world, different backgrounds, and all that, they all have their own personality. They all have their own ways of leading. They are unique, what I call unique leadership approach.
Yep, situational leaders, huh? Yeah.
Yes, which is made up of their values, strengths, and personalities. It's just that combination. And these people know themselves well enough to realize, yeah, in this situation, I'm going to lead. In other situations, I'm going to defer to the experts that are with me, even though I'm in the position of managing the whole project. That's why you have situations where there are some leaders who just want to take control. They micromanage, right? Because
Yeah,
they they,
it's
they
their
don't
style.
they don't understand their style is not applicable for the situation that they are in. There are times when you need to micromanage. Maybe in a crisis situation, you need to be on on board of every single thing. But when things are fine, you got the hands off and let people do their things, and that's when they may not realize that, hey, the environment has changed. My leadership approach isn't highly applicable to this new environment.
Oh my gosh, what you just mentioned, that last few sentences is so important, because the same thing as we critique our supervisors, we should also tell ourselves, this particular supervisor who micromanages, I've
Mm,
also worked for one such supervisor. Luckily, it's only for a very, very short period, because that was only an acting supervisor, to take care of my head count, so to speak, before the eventual,
yeah.
manager actually comes on board. But instead of criticizing them, we should be telling ourselves again. I think this book is going to be so crucial to tell ourselves, hey, this is how he or she leads, or manages. It's just that maybe he or she may not be aware, but I'm aware. So it's
Yes.
either you continue or you sidestep and then find another way to influence.
Yes. Yes. I want to pick up on what you said. Sometimes
Right.
people are given the opportunity to manage or lead, but they don't understand the difference.
Right.
One of the some of the difficult or disheartening, and I've had a few interviews that were challenging, were interviews where where the interviewees, they have led previously, they failed, and they never did quite recover.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
because a lot of people, they really see it as a step up, and it is a step up, to be able to manage a team of your own. But you need a different skill set, and there are definitely two people that I can think of that they stepped up, they tried, they didn't get the support,
Mm-hmm.
or things just didn't work out. They had to step back, and
I like that.
when they share the story, one part of me is there just sympathizing with this person, like I can I can understand where this person is coming from. You know, there's this one guy that I spoke with, which I included in the book. He wanted people to like him, but his need to be liked was too much, and it affected the way he managed people.
Mm.
And that was one big factor that led to him stepping back and realizing that I can't lead. I need to, and eventually he tells me he has to resolve until he can resolve this desire to be liked. He finds that he just cannot be supervising people because, you know, if people don't like him, he starts to get very stressed. Yeah,
It's so apt. It's so apt.
and that was one, and that to me was a difficult a difficult interview, because then I had to continue to try to keep things positive and draw out the lessons, even though I'm bringing him through that pain again. I have to sort of, okay, tell me more about the pain, so that other people can learn from it. And I was trying to tell him, like, I remember, I think once or twice I was telling him, hey, look, I understand this is a tough moment,
Right.
but I want you to know that there are other people out there who can learn from and benefit from your experience.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, he took that courage and he went, okay, this is what happened. Yeah. And I wrote elements of that story, of that desire, down in the book, which I think is I think it's chapter 6 or chapter 7. It's
right.
Chapter 7. Right. Being likable is not your job.
Yep. And I, you know, you categorize chapters 5, 6, and 7 under this part called the authentic leader. So don't be afraid of being an authentic leader. I really want to applaud you for including that chapter, because I spoke about this intermittently at certain events about, you know, I'm coaching someone who is also, you know, looking towards being liked, because it's the first time handling a regional team. And you know, all of us will cross that bridge someday. You know, everybody like to be liked, right?
Yes.
And I mean, why not? A choice of being liked, being popular or unpopular, I think the answer is quite obvious, or at least majority, unless you are outlier. And it's been a struggle for this particular individual. The moment the individual let go of the need to be liked, you know, that individual just was able to then discover himself or herself again. So self-awareness is important.
Yeah, you know, likability is a result. It shouldn't be a goal. And there's a question here from Winkit that goes, is there a plan to share this with managers? Well, look, you know, definitely what I do, just to answer your question directly, Winkit, is what I'm doing now. Yes, I am selling the book. The book has given me the open, and just to give everyone a little bit of a background, it's always easier to sell leadership books when you are well known, right? So if you are Lee Kuan Yew, okay, and I'm just assuming that I'm speaking to a domestic audience, a Singaporean audience here. So if you're a prime minister of a country, you are well known, you publish a book, people can take whatever they want from the book and say, yeah, this is good leadership material, and you're going to sell tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of books. When you are an unknown like myself, I have to just work hard to get the word out. So what the book has done for me is to be able to introduce the credibility. And I think one of the biggest swing factor is that when people see what I do, they realize, oh, Daniel is not sharing his opinion. He's simply conveying the collective insights of the leaders who have shared their wisdom. So then that helps because when some people go to the back of the book and they look at who are the contributors and they do a search, they will find that, hey, wow, there are people from all over the world, literally 37 different parts of the world on all the continents, different levels of career progression. And then it makes it easier for people to accept that, hey, this idea, that this concept is not just based on one person, but it's a collective wisdom. So yeah, definitely plans to, like I said, sell this out, sell the book, speaking to organizations about it. They, I've had some interest from organizations because of the unique perspective that the book provides, which is it's just there to help people understand what leadership is. Because the main thing that I do is I make leadership simple.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's repeating your tagline. But it's apt, it's very, very apt. So again, your two, why did you stop at 220th, interview?
So I finally hit 50-50 male female
Woohoo!
parity at 220.
I applaud you.
Yep.
Yes, I
Yeah.
applaud you.
And
You
we
are
got
right.
people from a whole range of industries. I think it's 18 or 19 different industries. You want the most blue of the blue, construction, manufacturing. You want the most white of the white, university, research. We got
White
them.
collar workers.
Yeah, in between. Yeah, literally people who wear blue and literally people who wear white.
Yes, I see you decided to color your book purple.
Yes.
So not taking sides, huh? Once you combine the blue and the pink.
Yeah, blue and red is more
Blue
like
and red becomes purple.
sorry, the purple was more to signify the mental, rational, and the red is more about the heart.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, I want to call out because we are talking about the book here. When you listeners, when you do get your book, I hope that you can also pay more attention to part 4. So part 4 talks about the collaborator, and that's where my favorite chapter, chapter 12, why should others follow you, is included in that. There are 3 chapters in it: chapter 11, chapter 12, chapter 13. I take it, I take away the personal recounts of my own career journey, being a people manager, being a leader as well, where I had to lead about 150 direct, indirect reports. So I had 150 headcount under my charge. And then when I moved over to a HR role, all HR teams, most HR teams are very lean, right?
Yes.
So I had a very, very small team. But that doesn't stop you from launching projects and having people join you on regional projects where I don't even own their headcount, because you need to collaborate with them. And I think this word collaboration goes even beyond your own professional journey as an employee. Running my own business is the same thing. You need to work alongside everyone. You basically, you're part of an ecosystem. As long as you recognize who's around you, we are all successful because of the people around us as well, isn't it?
Yes. There's one, I came to one conclusion quite early on when it comes to being a leader and collaboration. And it goes, and it's this: as a leader, you can't do the work of the team. So you need to work with them, because your team is producing the results that you depend on in order to be successful. You flip the coin around. From the team's point of view, they want you as the leader if you can help them to be successful. Or else, what's the point of you being there in your position in the first place if you're just there for yourself?
Okay.
So that is one big realization that I like to share with a lot of people, that don't just think about, I want to be a leader. Think about, how can I help other people be successful? Because
Cool.
when other people know that you are essential to their success, then they will naturally flock to you. They will naturally be influenced by you.
This is
That's when you can be a leader.
okay. Very, very nice. So, like I said again, my favorite chapter is chapter 12, and my favorite page is 163. So when you do get your book, please, zoom into that one, read about the stories as well. So, I do have three questions I want to ask you.
Yep.
And the three questions I ask all professionals this question. So number one is, how do you define success? Now that you have taken the author route, would you call yourself, would you say you are already successful? And if you are, how do you define that?
I wouldn't define success based on how big an impact that I've made. So naturally, of course, if I was to sell 50,000 books, hey, that's a very quantifiable success. But I would define success as being a person of value to others. And so when I get feedback from people saying that, what I share is helpful, what I've shared has helped them turn situations around at work, then I know what I've been doing is successful. And that's one way of measuring success. And that's how that to me is my primary way of measuring success. Of course, the money is still important and the scale of my impact is important, no doubt. What really keeps me going is knowing that what I share is helping people out there to be better leaders.
That's so cool. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So the way you define success is as long as you help someone out there who comes back to you and say what you wrote, something you wrote in there helped me.
Yeah.
And that to
Yeah.
you is success. Of course, we want the quantifiable marker, which is 50,000 book, 100,000 book,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I've got two more questions, but I
Yep.
thought, do you want to ask the quiz question for our audience, and see who gets it right? And to win a
Yeah.
book for a live audience, one book, yeah. The other three, everybody still has a chance to win the other three books, but I think for our live audience who made an effort to call in, today you have a chance. One of you will have a chance to walk away with one of this book. Woohoo! What's your question, Daniel?
Okay. So I talked about one of my interviewees, Christine, and I wrote about her in one of the chapters. So which chapter was it? Between 1 to 30.
Okay, guys, you got the question. Now type your answer. Here's your chance. Which chapter was it? Okay, so our audience, can you remember? Which chapter was it? All right, so they are probably deliberating. Christine, right? Because I asked him about the most enjoyable chapter, and he mentioned about Christine that he interviewed. I better
Yes.
not say anymore because I might leak the answer. 1 to 30. All right. So please type in the chat 1 to 30. Which chapter was it? Okay. Okay. So let's see. Let's give them some time to deliberate. If not, all right. Any takers there? Do we have any takers? Which chapter was it? Wow, maybe they are so, you know,
Maybe,
in yeah, so
maybe
absorbed
too
into the
engrossed. Yeah.
story. Yeah, engrossed into the story and absorbed into the story that they didn't take note of the number.
Oh, someone put in.
Ah, oh, hi, Wai Chun. Hi, Wai Chun. So nice to have you here with us. Okay, so her guess is chapter 12. Sarah said, oh, hi, Sarah. Sarah said chapter 5. No, higher, higher. Higher. So Daniel wrote 30 chapters. So choose a number. Okay, choose a number. And which one was it? Which chapter was it? If two
Maybe,
different,
yeah, maybe you can ask. Maybe you can ask a question instead.
my question.
Yeah.
My question. Okay, my question. I think everybody should get this right. I hope everybody get this right. Which is my favorite chapter? Okay, so which is my favorite chapter? So let's see who gets this right. Eileen's favorite chapter. Okay, Eileen's favorite chapter.
TikTok.
TikTok. Yeah, TikTok. Come on. Eileen's favorite chapter. Which is my favorite chapter? I think I mentioned this quite a lot during
Oh,
the chat.
CP cool.
CP Cool got it right? Oh, wow. Okay,
And
cool.
Sarah as well.
Aha. So we've got a tie between these two, huh? So between Sarah. So no, Wai Chun, my favorite chapter was chapter 12 because chapter 12, Daniel wrote it out of, inspiration after interviewing me and also someone else. So two of us inspired him to come up with chapter 12. So when you get your book, please look at it. Yeah. Oh wow, Sarah, chapter 12, page 163. She just want to go in for the kill, right? Going for the kill. Okay, there is also something else. I don't know how early any one of you dial in. Daniel interviewed 220 executives, and I was one of them. But which when was I interviewed? I'm interviewing number what? Where do I rank? Right, out of 1 to 220, where do I rank? I'm interviewee number what? Which one? I think this will benefit whoever who dial in really early. I think I asked you that question quite early on in the interview, yeah?
Yep.
From 1 to 220. So I am interviewee number. Okay, any guesses there? And then Daniel probably have to think of one more question. Okay? Anyone? Any takers? I'm interviewee number. You know the smart one to go back and listen to the to the video again. Okay. All right. So no takers there. No takers there. Daniel, one more question.
I think we can. How many books do we have to give away?
Today we're giving one book.
Oh, just one book.
Yes, and then the
Oh,
other three they can, still continue to comment, and then you have the chance to win as well. So,
okay.
Wai Chun says I'm interviewing number 50. Oh, okay. No. I'm not. Very much earlier than that. I'm his early supporter. Okay, give you guys a clue, Give you guys a clue. This is what Daniel wrote in his autograph for me. Okay, he wrote here. So I'm just gonna read it out to you. He said, Hi Eileen, thank you for your support. You were the first, and that got the ball rolling. You made this possible. So, what interviewee ranking was I? Okay, which one?
I think that's as much hint as as we can give.
Yes, interviewee number. Yeah, because there's a lag between our conversation here in Zoom and also in YouTube. So they need to digest first. And that's why you will see a little lag there, our conversation there. So let's see. I think my hint is super, super direct already.
Okay. CP Cool said 1.
I think CP Cool earns it lah. Yeah. Okay, so the first one to get those answers right. So yes, CP Cool, congratulations, you are the winner of this book. Chapter 12 is my favorite chapter. And also, yes, page 163 is where my name was mentioned. And yes, I'm interviewee number one. I find that really, really cool. All right.
So yeah, so CP, just reach out to Eileen directly. And
Please.
for the rest of you, don't be disheartened, because if you go back and watch, if you leave an insightful comment in the WSG video, so Eileen was sharing, and I think she may have included it in the description as well. There's a WSG, the Workforce Singapore video, and I did a talk there. Go check out that talk and put down your comments there, because what I will be doing is I'm going to be reading through the comments and choosing, is it the top three comments from there, and that's another way that you can get the book.
Yep. So do not be disheartened. Okay, so I've just included the email in the chat. So CP Cool, please email support@artofcareer.com to claim your book, and we'll be sending this book out to you. So congratulations for making that effort. So I've only got two other questions. If you can give me
Sure.
reply on this. So my second last question is, if there's a message you can say to your younger self, what would that be?
I would say be willing to learn from others, and not think that I have to do it all on my own. Yeah, I think it's something that comes with wisdom. But when I was much younger, I had this view that I had to do it on my own.
Same here.
Yeah, I would go back and say, just learn from others, and you will accelerate your journey.
Very nice. Okay, and the last question is that if there's a part of your younger self that you want to bring with you throughout the rest of your life, which part of that younger self would be?
I have a saying. I have a personal saying, which is better to do and fail than not do and regret. So now, how this saying came about was actually because of girls.
That's how you ended up, marrying your wife for so many years, right? Wow.
So when I was younger, you always see the pretty girls, but I never had the courage to really approach. And then pretty girl goes away, and I end up regretting and not wondering why I didn't do anything. And then, of course, when my wife came along, I decided, no, I'm going to do something finally. But it's a personal saying that I've applied all throughout my life, from the day that I realized that it's better to do and fail than to not do and regret, because there's nothing worse than regret, because it means that the opportunity has passed and not many of us are going to get a second chance in life.
That's so true.
And so it's much better to do and say, all right, I've given my very best. I wasn't as successful as I thought, but at least I've experienced it, and I've done it.
Yay, that's very, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I just want to show everybody, here's what you can do. The contest is not over yet. There's 3 other books everybody can win. And so all you need to do is to find this video in this same channel that you're watching this live show. Find Daniel's video, find all the other speakers' video as well under virtual seminars, and then write a comment. Of course, please subscribe and click the notification button, just so that you get notified every time we go live. There's going to be a lot more live sessions, and who knows, we could be interviewing you. Yeah, so write in your comment, because I'll just get Daniel to pick the most meaningful comment, 3 most meaningful comments.
Yeah,
we're gonna announce this.
Yeah, and if you have already gone in there to take a look, you will notice that I reply to as many of the comments as possible.
Yep, indeed. Yes, you have been very engaging. Yeah, and I know for some of you, you do view those videos and you find those helpful as well, and that's our role. We want to be part of your journey. We want to help you because at the end of the day, remember chapter 12, right? Chapter 12,
Why
part
should others
4.
follow you?
Yes, why should people follow you? You don't have to have the title of a manager to be a leader. I think I shall make that my tagline. Okay, Daniel, any parting words to our audience?
Whatever it is that you do, make sure make sure that you're providing value, that you're being a person of value to others.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience as well. You've been wonderful. You've been supporting Art of Career just as much as we are here to support you. So have a very good rest of the week. I know this is midweek, but I hope we have made your day and your week much, much better. Enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you so much, Daniel.